All right, so here we go, y'all. The first lawsuit against Biden's student loan debt reduction has officially dropped. So this is in Mediaite. They say, lawyer sues to halt Biden's student debt forgiveness even as he's about to have his erased by a separate federal program. Wow. All right, so let's read the specifics, see if we could wrap our mind around this. An Indiana lawyer with student loan debt is suing to stop the implementation of President Joe Biden's debt forgiveness plan. While that may seem self-defeating, the man in question is slated to have his debt forgiven through a separate government program. Now, we'll see if they explain here, but I don't know if this is because previously Trump had done some, a little bit of student loan debt reduction here and there. Like, for example, I think for veterans or wounded veterans, or, I'm going off memory here. There were some instances of Trump doing very targeted student loan debt forgiveness. There was some of Biden doing the same thing. Like, he had forgiven student loan debt for people who went to these, scam, for-profit, private colleges. So I don't know if one of those programs impacts this guy, but clearly some other program does. I just don't know which program. They say, moreover, the lawyer would incur an automatic tax liability on the forgiven debt because Indiana considers it taxable. So this is how a lot of red states are trying to get back at Biden for doing this. They're going to tax the student debt forgiveness. In August, Biden announced he's canceling $10,000 in student debt for borrowers making less than $125,000. Those who receive Pell Grants will get $20,000 in relief. Conservatives criticize the move, with some, such as Senator Ted Cruz, exploring ways to potentially sue to stop the move. Now, let me just pause to state the obvious here. This would be wildly unpopular. In fact, Biden's numbers shot up right after this student loan debt forgiveness. I mean, he went from just bottoming out with young people to skyrocketing. And overall, there was a poll that came out recently. He now has a 49% approval rating. Excuse me. He has a 49% approval rating with the entire country, which is close to his peak. His peak was 52 or 54%, and that was right after he cut $1,400 checks. And so for Cruz to go after Biden for this, I mean, you're asking for your numbers to go down and the Republican Party's numbers to go down. They continue. However, the issue of who or what entity has standing to sue could prove problematic for plaintiffs. Yeah, so this guy, if he's not getting directly affected by this particular round of student loan debt reduction, I don't know how he could have standing. In this case, the plaintiff is Frank Garrison of Indiana, which is one of a handful of states that plan on taxing forgiven student debt. According to the Associated Press, Indiana will tax the vacated debt at a rate of 3.23%, or $323 on $10,000 in relief. Garrison is being represented by Pacific Legal Foundation, according to Fortune, which reported this. Garrison is on track to get his student debt erased through a separate federal program for public servants. Although most borrowers will need to apply for Biden's plan, Garrison and many others in that program will automatically get the relief because the Education Department has their income information on file. Biden's plan would automatically cancel $20,000 of Garrison's debt, which in turn would trigger an immediate tax liability from the state of Indiana, according to the suit. Under the debt forgiveness program he's enrolled in now, canceled debt cannot be taxed. So it looks like this guy's getting the best version of the student loan debt reduction, and he's pissed? What? And is he even suing to stop his own student loan debt forgiveness? Because if he's part of a separate program, is he saying stop the program that's helping me too? Or is he saying stop the program that's helping other people? The suit maintains that Garrison and millions of others similarly situated in the 6 relevant states will receive no additional benefit from the cancellation, just a one-time additional penalty. Okay, even if that's true, right? Even if that's true, why aren't you suing the state of Indiana for taxing that? You should sue them. They're the ones who are fucking you. And by the way, you're not even really getting fucked in the grand scheme of things, because if $20,000 of your debt is being forgiven and then you have to pay, $600, you should be writing thank you letters to President Biden. I mean, this is such a reach. It's unbelievable. Quote, Congress did not authorize the executive branch to unilaterally cancel student debt, said an attorney representing Garrison. Nothing about loan cancellation is lawful or appropriate. More on that in just a second. The suit says, in an end run around Congress, the administration threatens to enact a profound and transformational policy that will have untold economic impacts. Yeah, untold positive economic impacts. We've covered the numbers. For example, the rate of small business creation is very low when you have high student loan debt. When you get rid of the student loan debt, there are many more small businesses that are created. I think you have like 300,000 new home buyers if you reduce student loan debt. There's a number of positive impacts of getting rid of that student loan debt. So this idea of like it has untold economic impacts, as if those impacts are negative, is just totally misleading. Now, they say here, I want to quote it again, nothing about loan cancellation is lawful or appropriate. That is not true. So understand the way that Biden went about doing this is questionable. I will grant that, because he used some sort of COVID justification to cancel the debt or reduce the debt. And look, I don't know why they picked this particular legal avenue to do it. There is a question as to whether or not this particular way of doing it will stand up in court. I don't know the answer to that. It might stand up, it might not stand up, but here's the bottom line. The federal government holds most of the student loan debt. So it stands to reason they could do whatever they want with that student loan debt. Now, beyond that, if you're looking for a legal justification, boy, oh boy, do we have it for you. So here is a video. This is one of my videos. We covered this a while back, okay? The title is Expert. Biden can eliminate all student debt by executive order. So you're going to see the legal path wherein it would definitely be allowed for Biden to not just reduce student loan debt, eliminate all student loan debt. Let's watch.
Talk about one simple question. Is it legal for President Biden to cancel student debt? The answer is yes. He can do it today without any other action by Congress. Let me explain why. Imagine you lend me $20. It's your $20. You can ask me to pay it back in full, in half, or not at all. Student debt cancellation works the same way. When someone takes out a federal student loan, they're borrowing money from the government, and the Constitution gives Congress the authority to control property of the government, such as debts owed to it. When Congress gave the Secretary of Education the authority to make or back student loans, it also gave the Secretary the broad and unrestricted power to cancel or write down that debt. This power was established under the Higher Education Act in 1965. That law gives the Secretary of Education the authority to compromise, waive, or release any right, title, claim, lien, or demand, however acquired. The Secretary also has the authority not simply to compromise debt, but to modify a student loan to zero. Secretary Betsy DeVos actually used this authority to cancel out a limited amount of student debt. Now, it's important to understand the purpose of the Higher Education Act. It was to make the benefits of higher education widely available, especially to those who otherwise couldn't afford it. Nobody else but the federal government was willing to lend to people with no credit history, no means, and only the chance at a bright future. But we decided to do it because education is so important to us as individuals and as a country. But the intent was not what we're seeing now. Worsening the racial wealth gap, driving up costs, reducing affordability and access, and triggering a repayment crisis. The nation today has a $1.7 trillion student debt burden, owed to the federal government by about 43 million Americans. At the Project on Predatory Student Lending, we represent over 1 million student borrowers who were cheated by for-profit colleges. And this is an industry that aggressively targets and scams people who are looking for jobs and careers in order to get its hands on federal student loan dollars. And their priority is enrollment, not education. We see how defaulting on student debt can cause poor credit, food insecurity, homelessness, inability to pay household debt, barriers to employment, and mental and physical health issues. It holds people back in their decisions to get married and have children or to do certain kinds of jobs that we as a country need doing. And this burden impacts the whole family, the whole community, the whole economy, not just the loan bearer. But we've also seen how debt cancellation can liberate Americans and their families. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, the government has paused federal student loan payments through September 2021. This has freed up households in this pandemic to spend money and help keep our economy going. And the ability to do that falls under the same authority to modify or outright cancel debts. In these examples and others, the law is clear. President Biden has the legal authority to cancel student debt. And doing so is not an end, but a beginning of necessary change we need to invest in higher education in a different way so that millions more Americans are not cheated out of their futures and saddled with student debt that they can never repay.
So the answer here is simple. 1965 Higher Education Act, the Secretary of Education, at the behest of the president, has the right to totally get rid of student loan debt. It's not a question. It's not up in the air. I mean, I'm sure there will be or could be lawsuits, even if he did it with that legal avenue. But I think even the most right-wing Federalist Society judge cannot find a rationale to slap that down. Because it's simple. The federal government owns most of the debt, and through the 1965 Higher Education Act, they have the right, if they want, to do whatever they want with it. And so, for them to eliminate it, that is their choice. So, now, again, Biden didn't use this legal path. He decided to go with some COVID justification. So, let's say, hypothetically, you have a situation where the courts slap it down the way that he did the student loan debt reduction. Well, nothing's stopping him from turning around and saying, okay, I'm using this different justification now. Now I'm going to do it through the 1965 Higher Education Act. If he were to do that, there's nothing the courts could do. It'd have to go back through the whole process again, and they'd have to make a decision. And on that front, I don't think they could find a way to say, no, you can't do this. So, but then look, the question becomes, and I don't want to get conspiratorial here because you would need evidence to make this claim, right? But, was this a nefarious plan all along for Biden to I'm going to cancel it in a way where I know it's going to get struck down. And then when they do strike it down, I'm not going to change the legal avenue through which I do this. And I'm going to say, oh, shucks, there's nothing I could do. I mean, that's certainly possible. And if that is what happens, then that is, then Joe Biden is going to get trounced in the next election, because this is one of the few good things that he did where he's getting genuine support as a result of it. And if that gets slapped down, I mean, yeah, sure, maybe primarily people will blame the courts, but you're still going to have a drop in your support among young people. And so Biden would get hurt politically, the Democrats would get hurt politically, and they would have earned it if they do something this nefarious and this underhanded and this gross. So, look, it's yet to be seen how it's going to unfold. If it does mean that a court slaps it down and Biden's like, oh, shucks, there's nothing I could do, I will go on the warpath against him. But as of right now, Occam's razor is he did the student loan debt reduction because he felt like his hand was forced by all the pressure around him, and he promised it on the campaign trail, so he did it, and he stands by it. And it'll either stand up in court, which will be a good thing, or if it does get slapped down, if he's not even more scummy than any of us could have imagined, he could just say, all right, well, I have this new legal rationale, so piss off. So there you go. There's the gist of it. But look, this particular lawsuit, I don't think this one's going to work. I don't, because I don't even know if this guy has standing. But there could theoretically be a different lawsuit on the same student loan debt reduction, which does proceed through the courts. And it's questionable as to whether or not it'll get slapped down, especially because our courts are packed with right-wing justices. So we shall see. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.